Right, so morning everybody. Welcome, it's great to see you today. I'm Anne Malabar and I represent JUMP Foundation here at ASD, and really the objective of today is to help you all understand, well, what is this partnership about? It's easy, often we come along every day and we do all our work, and it's good at times just to step back and say, look, what is this about? So basically it is a partnership. JUMP Foundation I will talk about a little bit later, but the objective is to share what we're doing, the work that we're doing here at ASD, but also to allow you to understand more about what JUMP Foundation itself is, because we work not only at ASD, with many, many other schools around the world, but also with youth, community groups, with educators. So we're involved in a range of different experiential opportunities across the world. So we'll go into that more in detail later. I'll share with you some of the initiatives that I'm working on here at ASD. And then I'll also include a little experiential activity so that you're not sitting the whole time, and that will be very reflective of how JUMP kind of does things. And then I'll leave a little bit of time for FAQs at the end. That sound good? Okay, and anytime, please, if you've got questions, interrupt at any point. Very happy to kind of do it as we need, and we'll work for you all. All right? So, I'm Anne Malabar. We're here to support the school basically in its vision and mission to grow global citizenship thinking and mindsets. So this is the ASD vision statement for global citizenship. So as you can see here, it's about helping young people and adults that are working in our community to really begin to explore what is it to be a global citizen. That, often we have, oh, well, I can speak 2 or 3 languages. Well, that's great, but it goes way beyond that. You can have a fantastically fluent conversation with somebody in Spanish or French or Italian. We could be talking about the latest clothing we've bought. That doesn't mean that you are necessarily going to be impactful in making effective, sustainable change that is good for our world. So language helps us to communicate across different cultures, of course, but we want to get into the thinking. So how do we do that? How do we support students and faculty, admin staff, everybody in our community to develop this way of thinking, that I can understand that one action that I make here might have a very different impact over here. So we look, for example, at plastic use. And I'm going to take that because it's something that's very much in our news at the moment. Why should we be getting rid of single-use plastic? Well, people will say, well, it harms the marine life. It harms the ecosystem of the marine environment. But it also goes beyond that. Our job is to help people go beyond that, to make the connection. So yes, we throw plastic, it gets into the ocean. That then affects the marine life, for sure. But what other environmental, economic, societal impacts does that have? Well, if there's less available quality fish in the sea, it affects somebody's ability to fish. That then might affect the economy of a rural community somewhere. That then also has an influence on the community itself, and maybe moving away from that rural little community to an urban community. So it has impact all the way through. That's a very high-level, simple example, but I think it helps you to realize that our responsibility as global citizenship educators is to allow people to join those dots up, to explore more about what's going on underneath and what connections we can make to allow our thinking in our decisions and our actions to begin to look different. So that's what global citizenship is. So here, that's what we're trying to do with the opportunities that we're bringing to students. So basically, it's a mindset. Sometimes people will say, well, it's a global citizenship curriculum. And some schools across the world do have a global citizenship curriculum. We at JUMP Foundation and at ASD believe that that's not necessarily the best way to develop global citizens. We feel it's about shifting our minds and our thinkings. And you can only do that if you allow the connection to be made and you provide opportunity for people to empathetically connect with the issues at hand. So this is the approach that at JUMP Foundation and at ASD we are striving to create in our partnership together. I personally, as a JUMP Foundation member here, I work out from the Service Learning and the Sustainability Initiatives Department, which I work completely closely with Lawrence and with Sandy Carden. And this is how we are developing this whole aspect of becoming a change maker. How can we grow skills, tool sets within people of our community that will allow them to see how they can be empowered to create effective, sustainable change in our world. At this point, I'm going to invite Michele Khateri from our advancement department to come and talk a little bit about how this partnership at ASD is funded. Thank you, Michele.
So as you've probably seen in the fall, we've been talking about various opportunities and ways that fundraising has impacted the school. And so one of the things that over the course of the last couple of years, this has been an evolving partnership, has been with the JUMP Foundation. And so we've been fundraising over a couple of years to be able to offer various opportunities. And one of them has been, and it's a significant contribution, that is an agreement that have a couple years partnership looking for renewable opportunities, but this is coming outside of the tuition. As we say, the tuition funds the regular day-to-day, and this is an opportunity to really add an extra added benefit. So as you see, opportunities for fundraising around the campus, this is one of the wonderful benefits, as well as what we heard last week. So we just want to be able to connect the dots as Anne is doing this morning. So
great, thanks, Michele. Okay, and yeah, I feel it's a real privilege. As I talk about JUMP Foundation, you will see that we do have other setups like this in a few other schools, but only in a very few schools around the world. So I feel it's a real privilege to be here and to be able to take this kind of shift of minds. It's very quick and often relatively short term to put a curriculum into any school. But if you want to truly develop a shift in somebody's thinking, then that takes some time. And it requires very much kind of one-to-one conversations sometimes, working with teachers, not putting something new in, but helping faculty to see, well, where is the connection with what I'm currently teaching? And how might I bring just a slightly different perspective on that? And it is just a slight, sometimes, perspective shift that can change how you might present a unit of inquiry to a group of students. All you have to do sometimes is say, right, how does that connect with the Sustainability Development Goals, which we'll talk about later? And straight away, immediately, you have a different perspective building. So that's what we're after. We're after long, sustainable change of thinking rather than something very short term. All right, so JUMP Foundation itself is a non-for-profit social enterprise. We basically want to grow global citizens around the world, but also are very intentional about how we create opportunities for people to grow their passions and to reach their own potential. That is a very highly significant part of what JUMP Foundation is all about. We believe that people sometimes have not explored their true capacity and potential. And through placing opportunities in front of them in certain ways, especially in the experiential ways, we believe that we can tap into that in an easier way. And so that's what we strive to do, help people work with their passions, be great global citizens, but also reach their full potential. As you can see here, we've been operating since 2006, and we reach educators, we reach youth groups, we reach student groups around the world in different guises. Very much it's about the first start point is you. No matter how old we are, this is me I need to explore who I am, to be very much self-aware in the decisions and the passions that I have. And then as I'm experiencing life, how do I take who I am as a unique individual and begin to make my decisions understood by those around me? How can I share my perspective, but also then begin to understand somebody else's perspective? And how can we reach an understanding together so that we work effectively together? So first of all, understanding what it is to work and be yourself. Then to appreciate how you can begin to influence your community around you in sharing how you think about things, what your viewpoints are, how you communicate with people to help other people around you be included. So there's a whole piece around, empathy. How do we make a connection? How do we empathize with everybody? That comes through numerous body language. It comes through how we use our facial expressions. It comes through a whole numerous range of things. But we intentionally at JUMP provide opportunities for people to explore what that feels like and experience it hands-on. So it's a very active way of learning. But self, building that into how can I take my ideas, move them forward into my community, and begin to make impactful decisions within my community to make changes happen that I think are really important. So giving our students toolkits, skills, ways of thinking, perspectives that will help somebody move from, this is what I believe, these are the things in the world that I think ought to be changed, to working in a community group, whether it's my class, whether it's my grade group, whether it's Dubai as a local community. How can I have tools, skill sets that help me to have my opinions, ideas heard within the wider community? How can I begin to make change happen? And that's a very gradual process that we know needs to start happening from when children are down here to when we become adults. It's a whole continuum. It's very important to start as young as possible. Obviously, once you've developed the capabilities and passions to affect and impact your local communities, then it's about how do you change that to the global community? How do I, as an individual, start to make really big things happen? One of the things that I am very passionate about is polio eradication. So in the past, I have connected what I love doing, which is playing tennis, and I've connected the two things together. So I've put on like a little tennis tournament event. I've had some polio eradication awareness there. People have paid to enter the little tournament, just a one-day morning activity. And then the money that we've raised, we've used to purchase polio vaccines, and that's been sent to a little community in Pakistan. Relatively straightforward, but if I hadn't had the thinking that I wanted to see the end point change, which is to eradicate polio in Pakistan, I wouldn't have even thought about connecting what I love doing, which is playing tennis. So it's helping all of us to begin to see those connections and how we can use what's in our own hands to make really impactful change. Any questions so far? We're going to get up fairly soon. All right, so yeah, it's about taking people beyond their comfort zone, reaching their potential, taking risks, yes, failing sometimes. Nothing we do is perfect first time round, but it's okay, we learn from that and we experience that with other people. Okay, so there are 3 arms of JUMP. We have a schools program, which is very much about developing leadership capacity, building community, building empathy amongst different groups that are working together. We have JUMP experiences. Here you can see, this was, I think, one of the guys from the American International School, Stanford American International School in Singapore. They were working in Cambodia. This guy, actually, he couldn't swim. So when you look at the context sometimes of pictures, you think, yeah, just some guy going around a waterfall. This boy could not swim. So to actually get into water was challenging enough. to see him then come down through this waterfall was a pretty amazing experience. So these things, sometimes, again, we have to know people's stories. At JUMP, we're very much about, well, what's behind that picture? This was a group of students working in Beijing International School. They were doing an action activity, so they'd just come together, they were getting to know each other. And again, we do that in very experiential ways. There's a lot of movement, there's a lot of connecting quickly to people. And this here was what makes us, actually, this impact arm is what makes JUMP non-for-profit. So obviously with schools programs and experience programs, we get income from it, of course. But beyond running costs, all the income that we generate gets fed back into what we call the JUMP impact arm of the organization. This basically is looking at community impact projects in marginalized communities around the world. These are the places where we have JUMP impact on the ground partners. What that means is that we will go in, we work with a local partner who obviously have connections with young entrepreneurs, young people that have started to show that they're desiring change in their community. And we work with them. So we go in and maybe do a 3 or a 4-day workshop, which is all about leadership, but we use a design thinking process. And then in the last day of that 3-day workshop, 4-day workshop, groups of students will pitch their ideas, their business ideas. So they will have gone through a whole design-making process, they will have built models, but they then have to present that. And the winning group basically will be then supported by finance and by mentoring. So these are the areas that we have community impact projects in, pretty widespread. This was me as I visited our Kenya Impact Project. So it's a Nairobi slum community. Basically, we had 70 young volunteers that are already doing great stuff in the community. They wanted to know more about leadership and how they can grow a business idea. They came to the leadership workshop. This is them designing their kind of scaffolding their design thinking ideas. And then this was me on the panel when we were listening to all of the presentations. So at the end of that 3-day workshop, I was part of the group of people that had to decide which group are we going to fund for the year. We actually decided on 2 because they were so great. But then that group know that they've got financial support and they've got mentoring support for a year. So we make it very clear, this is short-term, 1 year. If you can make your business sustainable within your community, within that year, then you have your own business. The group that I've connected ASD with is the group that they're trying to develop a one-stop shop almost of information, so a database, so that all the opportunities within their local community become more visible and accessible to people. So there's a lot of aid things that go on that people don't know about. How do they tap into that? So they wanted to develop a whole database so that everything's in one place. They had some information about healthcare, clinics in their local community. So bringing all of this information together, but they couldn't afford to develop their website. They didn't have the skill set always to develop their website. So this is what they have been working on through the year, and that will finish in May. Hopefully it's looking good. What I'm doing is trying to connect a group of students here, Changemaker Council, into that set of learning. So they're learning together. So our students receiving some coding and then giving them feedback on their website so that they're learning together. So that's one way that I'm trying to connect ASD with the community in Nairobi. That's just one example. We'll come to another one later. Coming back to the JUMP Schools programs, we also have global citizenship centres at Ivanhoe College in Melbourne and at NIST in Bangkok. Now, the NIST in Bangkok looks a little different to what we're developing here. NIST X in Bangkok, as you can see, was only established last year. We've had a long connection with that school, but basically we're responsible for all their external experiences for the students in their school. So any trips, any risk assessments, all of that. Any child at NIST that goes out of the school gate, JUMP are responsible for making sure that the infrastructure and the locations that they go to have been checked out in terms of risk assessments, making sure that the transportations are all absolutely booked on time, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a slightly different model than what we're developing here. Ivanhoe College is much more connected to what we're trying to do here. So I went to Ivanhoe back in October, and I was fortunate enough to share more about how they're developing their Citizenship Centre. It was just a really nice idea, the way they had their demonstration within their little elementary school library. So it's just one thing that I took away from there, just some ideas. They were working with their librarians to make sure they tab their books when they buy them to an SDG. So a really simple way, I hadn't thought about that. So a really simple way to develop a resource bank within the library, all of which are connected to the Sustainable Development Goals. Great for when faculty come to do units of inquiry. Oh yeah, I'm doing something connected with life on land. Okay, all my books in my library now. So it's a gradual process, but a really quick, easy step to build resources within the school. And obviously we have ASD, which we're calling Working Through the Changemaker Hub. This is our nice office near the cafeteria. If you've not been, always welcome to pop in. There's always a lot going on. So there are our global citizenship centres. Now is the time to start moving. All right, so we're going to do an edifications activity. At JUMP, when we're working with other partners, we never introduce ourselves. But we do introduce each other. But that requires us to know each other. So if I've got somebody else from JUMP, I will say, okay, this is Darcy. Darcy is X and Y and has done this experience. And then he will say, okay, this is Anne. She is interested in playing tennis. She does this. And so we edify each other. So this is what I want you to do. And we will debrief it as well as I would in a JUMP activity. So all I ask you to do now is get yourselves into groups of 3. Try and work with people who you're not sitting on the same table with, but groups of 3 as quick as you can. And then what I would like you to do is have a conversation. And you cover these questions. And I've deliberately scaffolded some questions for you because we want you to talk about things that maybe you wouldn't talk about when you first connect with somebody. That might feel a little uncomfortable, but that's okay. Because that's the first way of developing empathy. Feeling a little vulnerable helps you to develop empathy with somebody else. Okay? So I can ask you to get yourself in a group of 3 people and have conversations about all of these, and then we're going to share out later. Yeah, if you don't know each other, that's fine. Are we all in a group of 3? We all in.
So I don't know if
Well, we know each other.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Yeah, mix up a little bit. Mix up a little bit.
Oh, we don't
Make sure everybody's in class. Do you know each other? Maybe one.
I need to write.
Somebody who's
I don't have to go there.
Yeah. Yeah, you're still talking about what French do. So you don't have to write anything down if you don't wish, but if you can follow those kind of questions, so you get to know each other.
Let's move on. Judgment. I'm very. It's been a very long move. Is that a word? Put it in there. Genuine. Just like me. I like it's so it is actually very therapeutic to watch. See that jelly and it's kind of food. It's not a good day. Oh, that's of course. Yeah. Why? That's deep. For children, my specific one, I think. I'm sure it's by design. Not everybody. You think things are good?
Okay, let's just have 2 more minutes, and then anybody that's comfortable to share out can share out.
We don't.
That's what I was hoping.
We think we know about it.
Yeah, such an important observation.
So it's really?
Oh, never anything.
That's where I also I mean, I think structure.
Okay, just last 30 seconds.
Not enough time.
You want a minute?
No, I'm just saying.
I know.
People, 6
I'll give you 1 more minute. I'm generous like that.
I've always tried to find connection. So much choice in this world now.
Okay, if we can start to kind of wrap up.
Now Michele is a cartoon.
Right, if we can start to bring the focus of our attention to the front of the room, that would be really helpful. Slowly finish off the conversation that you're having. Bring your attention slowly to the front. Great, thank you. Now I know, like that activity, we could have done for another 15 minutes without any problem, I'm absolutely sure. And it's also great to hear, we thought we actually knew each other, but we didn't know that at all. That's why these questions were scaffolded as they were. I don't know if you were consciously aware of it, but this first one, actually, you could have looked at as quite negative. But it was purposely designed like that, because it's easy sometimes to say what you find really annoying. As we progressed, we kind of went into things that were fairly neutral, and then this one was about a fear. It's hard to open up and talk about a fear, but I purposely, intentionally designed the questions that way to lead you through something that was relatively easy to something that, 50-50, and something then went a little bit deeper into you. Right? What we're going to do now is I'm going to ask, is there anything that any groups, any individual wants to share about what that experience was like for you?
So like I told you, we know each other from what, 2 years now? None of this, you know. So it's really nice. Exactly. So it's really nice because we see each other, how we do with our kids, but we don't talk about what is our fears, what is, you know, so it was good to know it now. So I don't know if we're going to keep on being friends, but...
I might have ruined a beautiful friendship.
We need a mediator.
Anybody else want to share one?
Well, cultural things. So we were just talking about like our favorite cartoon. Well, if you're an American, Saturday morning cartoons, you know, and where you're talking about Italian cartoon, like something I've never even heard of, and now it's like, you know, we'll probably Google and I'll go check it out. So I think, you know, just learning about different things and different perspectives.
Very nice. Anybody else? Okay, so how we, as you can see, this was an experiential activity. This is very typical of how we would work with groups of people. As I said, there's always intention to how we present any question. But the most important part of what we do is not even how we frame an activity or we instruct an activity, it's how we debrief it. So a typical, we're not going to do this here because it will take time, we would bring all of you into a circle, for sure. Then we would ask some very open questions. So why did we do that activity? So I'm going to ask that of you. Why do you think we did that activity?
It feels like it sheds you. Like sheds you of a layer, maybe some hesitation of getting to know people as an icebreaker, but even as you say, going deeper. So it kind of puts everybody kind of in a neutral place.
Absolutely, yeah. And one of the most critical things when you're working with and developing groups of people that you want to put in fairly vulnerable positions to take risks and reach potential, you need to be sure that they've made connections with people around them. That was a very intentional part of doing this type of activity. Getting beyond what you would normally see on a surface. Any other thoughts about why we did that activity?
Maybe to understand the different thoughts, different, to put ourselves in the shoes of others, because regardless that we have many things in common, but there's some things that I'm going to also think about it. So it's learning and understanding.
Absolutely. So beginning to see that, straight away I'm learning something different. Yeah. Different perspectives on cartoons and different experiences of cartoons. Actually, that then has started to help you to make a connection together that you didn't have when you walked in a room. And that was within 5 minutes. So I hope you're beginning to see that these things can be achieved in relatively short time spaces. But it's essential for us to be able to take groups deeper. Right? Now, we debrief just with a few questions. We might have like 10, 20 questions. And the students themselves will then add, what was the experience for you? How did you feel? That's very often a question, what did that make you feel like? And again, that makes young people especially feel quite vulnerable. But that's okay. And so we'll have a conversation about, well, what are you learning by being vulnerable? How does that make then the whole group gel together? And that's a conversation in itself that we feel is very important to bring to the front, because especially young people find it so hard to be themselves. We also have something that we call powers of being an expert. We have powers of choice, powers of 2 feet, but we have this power of expert. And one of the first things that we will ever do with a group is to share what we mean by that. We're all powers of experts. We're the power of our own experiences. Only you can uniquely talk about your experience. Only you have the ways that you think about things as you do, your own perspectives, your own views, your own thoughts about things, anything. You're unique. And so that is very special, important that you share with people in your group. So there's no right and wrong answer here, because you're the power of your own expert. Everything that you bring to the group is going to be beneficial because it gives us each a different perspective on who you are, what you bring, how you view something. So that's how we kind of go through a process of breaking down groups together. Hopefully that kind of fairly quick example has been really useful for you. All right, so what we're doing at ASD, everything that I've kind of initiated always brings to the front this student profile. So I have to say at the moment, yes, developing this, a lot of it comes into this. Very much, I would say, the work that I'm doing in elementary school especially is about empathetic. How do we help groups to develop empathy with each other? And that comes into inclusion. So how I did, dividing the tables, making sure that people are split up. We're very intentional about how we look at the process of learning rather than the end product of learning. So working with the student profile, let's go back again. Looking at curriculum connections, I'll talk a little bit about each of these things in turn, but curriculum connections, individual students, because what I'm trying to do is unearth students that are taking great action to do things in their local communities or even across the world. And some awesome things going on that are completely outside any experience that these students have had within the classroom. So what I'm here doing is trying to unearth what these stories are and support students in sharing that story and being inspirational to other students within the school.
Sorry, can I intercede here? The Inspire trips, because that's one thing that was coming to my mind. I don't have a middle school or high schooler, but those Inspire trips that are underneath the JUMP umbrella.
Okay, I ran an Inspire week. I ran a leadership week here. So they didn't travel anywhere, they didn't pay anything for it, but I ran a whole leadership week with 21 students here in the health room.
I see, so it's not the same as the Inspire trips they do.
It was part of the Inspire program, but wasn't a trip.
Got it, okay.
Yeah. But JUMP do provide, that's what JUMP experiences are, those types of trips as well. Okay, but we didn't here. So we have individual student action. We have various ways that I'm developing leadership capacities and competencies here. And then I'm doing quite a lot of work on trying to explore partnerships and how that begins to look in terms of providing opportunities for students outside the school. So if we look at curriculum, we've run this year within the high school global issues in action with the grade 9s. The first part of their course was to take personal action. And this was new into the unit of work this year. So every student had to look at one of the sustainability development goals that they felt passionately about. And they had to create their own 6-week personal action plan. Very easily accessible. Some of them said, right, I'm going to give up eating meat for 6 weeks. Some of them said, right, I'm going to intentionally take shorter showers. I'm going to have 3-minute showers. Others said, I'm intentionally going to make sure that every room in the part of the school that I work in, I'm going to turn the lights off before we leave every day. So relatively accessible, easy actions for anybody to take. But the intention was to raise awareness about this is the first step. Let's then explore later on, what does that mean for energy use? Not just within the school, but maybe within Dubai, and then into the wider context of the global community. So it's helping to scaffold thinking. That's where we started them from in their Global Issues in Action course. And then they had to present out what they've done, how difficult it was, if they'd given up meat. Some people said, no, I can't do that, but I might start to do X or Y. So they recognized that they wanted to take some action, but not eating meat wasn't something that they wanted to do. But they could do something else in replacement. And so again, they developed a desire and understanding that they had a responsibility. Some people said, yeah, I'm taking short showers forever. It's fantastic. I'm more efficient. I get my homework started. I do X and Y. Great. So we all win. The high school advisory I'm working with, I've actually just only recently and since January started working with this group, but planning, again, looking at how we allow students to build in the connections with each other and being more empathetic to different students, how they might include them in terms of when they come into the school, what that might look like, but trying to use students' passions. So over the next few weeks, the high school students are going to explore their passions as an individual and look at how they feel it would be appropriate for them to share that within their advisory group. These things happen sometimes and have happened in the past, but we're trying to make them more intentional about understanding why is that important and having that much more open conversation about the context of why is it important to connect with the person next to me, in my group, then to the community, and then to the world. So that's the work that we're putting into the advisory program. The Middle School Pathways Project, I don't know if you have children in the middle school. If you do, then you're aware that the whole of the Week Without Walls trips this year are just part of something that's a much bigger entity. It's a year-long, in a sense, mini research project. So students are taking something that they feel really passionately about. They've chosen their trips according to what the issues are rather than the places that they're going to. So the Nepal trip is all about biogas. The Malaysia trip is all about precious plastic. And so that's how the trips were presented in the first place. And then that has sparked, hopefully, a guiding, compelling question that students want to investigate. They use their Week Without Walls trips as the opportunity to collect observational data. And then they use that data when they come back to create an informed action that is relevant to all of the experiences that they've had. It also connects with social studies and maths, no problem. Oh, great. You're going to a very worthy action. You're allowed to go. So yeah, this is the way. So the Pathways Project is very much connecting with the Sustainability Development Goals and allowing students to again see what they're experiencing, to dig deeper into it, and to bring it back and say, how can I take some action that will support a change of X or Y? Elementary morning meetings, I connect in a very kind of casual way. I'll drop in, I'll drop out, but it's about, again, coming back to the process of learning. So morning meetings are an ideal time for students to explore themselves and how they think about something and what that looks like in terms of the process of dialogue. So I'm working with faculty and just saying, okay, so how might we divide the groups when we're doing X or Y? I'm working very much with faculty in this way of how can we support the students in connecting with each other and growing empathy. So that is a real target with the elementary school morning meeting time. At the moment, I've been focusing on grade 4 and grade 1. But as we go forward, we're just like slowly rolling it out so that the faculty can then share as they've had an experience with me in their classroom and kind of co-teaching what that's looked like, and then inviting other people if they want to take advantage of that to sort of grow it in that way. So we're going very kind of exponentially and step by step, hopefully bringing thinkings rather than something specific into the classroom, but making authentic connection. I've also put together a little booklet of activities that are very experiential in nature, similar to the kind of thing that you did earlier, but all connected to the student profile strands. So I've put a little booklet together. It's about to be rolled out, like 4 or 5 activities on being a communicator and what that would look like in an experiential way, and the same with all the other strands. So all the faculty in elementary school will have easy access to that. It tells them how to frame the activity, it tells them how to instruct it, and also, as we mentioned before, what types of debrief questions would be really appropriate. that's kind of the curriculum. Middle school pursuits, I've done a lot of work actually with the pursuits group. I've done a change-making section, which is all about giving people a tool, a strategy of how to have their voice heard, how to connect passions, as I gave the example of my tennis, polio eradication. How do you connect something you're passionate about with something that you want to change, mesh them together, create some action. So we did a 6-week block on change-making with a group. We've done a connected soccer group, which connects into the Nairobi slum community. So when I was in Nairobi, I purposely connected with a soccer group because my background is in sport and sports psychology. And so I connected with this slum community group of soccer players, and we've been allowing the students here and there to explore how they grow their football skills. So they've shown skills and drills, they've videoed them, they've shared with each other, and they've started to get to know each other. So they might come up and do a clip of video. Okay, I'm Mohammed, I'm 14, I love football because it just helps me to play with my friends. I support Liverpool or Barcelona, whoever it is. So we send information to them and they send information back. So again, we're developing relationship and partnership and learning as well. And actually it was quite cool, so the group here was saying, come the kids from Nairobi, come over and play soccer with us. So that's what I'm actually exploring at the moment. Can I make that happen? Which would be pretty amazing. I was going to show the video, it's only quick, but I'm really conscious of time as well. But yeah, that's an ongoing project. Seems to be pretty successful at the moment. And then in the next lot of Pursuit Time, I'm going to run, again, a leadership section. What I've purposely tried to do in my time this year is to give opportunities to students not just in leadership roles within the school. So the Inspire trip for high school allowed anybody to access leadership training. The middle school Pursuit Time will allow anybody in middle school to access that. What I'm starting on the 9th of February is an elementary school leadership program, which takes place as part of the REC program after school. So for me, it's been really important not just to touch the students that are already in leadership roles. It's like there's so many amazing kids here that just given that slightly different way of thinking about themselves, we don't know what type of leaders they'll be. So it's been really important for me to think about how we can open that out to absolutely anybody in the school that they would like to access. Okay, Leia. These are some of our independent students taking amazing action. Leia is currently in grade 12. 2 years ago, in her summer holiday, she went over to a refugee camp in Jordan. When she was there, this project, she had no idea that it was going to happen. She went along to see what the experience was, to learn from it. She saw, she was very observant, that when the girls were playing soccer, they were constantly messing with their hijabs, and it was really frustrating. So they'd be playing, and they'd have to stop because they need to tie their hijabs up. And she said, she was talking to them, and they said, yeah, it's really frustrating. So she said, well, Nike make hijabs. They make sports hijabs. So she contacted Nike. Nike weren't interested, funnily enough. But she wasn't deterred. She thought, no, I'm going to do something about this. So she came back to Dubai. She got in contact with tailor who could make hijabs with the material that was flexible enough and not too hot and so on. So she researched the material. She worked with the supplier to make hijabs. Last summer, she went back. She shared the hijabs with the girls, and they were thrilled with them. But then they said, but they're all orange. We don't like orange. So then she said, what do you like? So again, she was refining her ideas. She hadn't realized their need wasn't orange hijabs. Their need was, we like pink hijabs, and we'd like some little patterns on them. Could we design our own? So that's what she's doing at the moment. She's doing a second iteration of hijabs, and she's going to take them in the summer holidays and share them with them. Again, it's a really great example of not only being determined, not being deterred by Nike saying no, but also knowing that the first series of something isn't the end product. You really need to understand the authentic need to meet the demand, and you have to have conversations and really place things into context to be able to do that accurately. She's doing great work. Also, we have Chad, who's currently in grade 9. I had no idea that he was running this blog until he ended up being as part of the Inspire Leadership Week that I ran. And he was saying, yeah, I run this blog, I've been running it for 2 years. Basically, I produce it in Korean, but it gives people a voice. It gives people an opportunity to know what's going on in the world who otherwise might not know what is being talked about. I want to open that up to grow my own passion for maths and science, and eventually, as I go through the next step, I am going to start sharing science learning and maths learning. Wonderful. Not only is he refining his own learning by sharing it in ways that other people can understand, but he's giving a service to people wider than his own community. So again, great initiative. Connects with SDGs all the way through. Iba is in grade 8. She's running, she loves art, she's always loved art. Mum was clearing out the wardrobe one day, she's throwing t-shirts away, she said, oh, can I have those? So she started making bags from t-shirts that were not going to be used. She makes adorable bags that she puts all the designs on because she loves being creative, she loves art, and she started to sell them. So now what she does, with the money that she gets from selling the bags, she buys art supplies, and she's created a connection to a school in Afghanistan, and she sends all the art supplies over to the school in Afghanistan so that the young children there can do art. The objective is that she loved art, and she wanted other people in communities that she knew may not have that opportunity to do art as well. So a great connection. And these are just a few, yeah.
Can I just share, because you talked about exposure there, and so we're launching our new website this week, inshallah. We are actually creating opportunities for stories on our website, because ASD News is really an internal opportunity, but this is really an external opportunity to explore and not expose, but to share the stories of these activities as well as other activities. Yeah. So there'll be other.
There will be, and these are the things that so far she has come up with as being opportunity. So she hasn't presented to the elementary school students yet, but that's her plan. Leia presented to grade 5s just before the Christmas break, but it's about then us having those conversations, say, well, how do you get this out to the wider community? And so as we go, that will be more refined. They can use the website and hopefully grow it within the community. But they're great examples of young people taking action that has happened independent of any specific unit of inquiry that they've done in school. But it does tell you that some thinking is happening that makes somebody want to do that. That's the key. Okay, we come to kind of leadership. This is actually just one often used activity that we do at the beginning of leadership kind of weeks or days, is that we ask people to say, what for you is a global citizen? Draw a global citizen and put on it how they think, how they feel, what they say, and what they do. And so these were just some of the findings from a middle school group. They recognize that global citizens are risk takers. They also recognize that they're very peaceful people, so they're aiming for peace, so they had a piece to chew. That they use their brains to make sure that we recycle, that they're generally pretty organized and thinking ahead, but they're also humble. All right? Over here, that they're kind, they've got the 3 C's, they cooperate, they communicate, and they collaborate. Fantastic. So already, getting people to draw helps them to really drill down into what they would like to see. So the next step after this type of exercise is to say, okay, so this is what you say a global citizen should be like, look like, think like, say, do. How does that compare with what you're like now? And then they begin to make some connections across. All right, so I like this. I've got no end of these examples, but they're always fascinating. And then the students will share them out, and again, that's a connection about how you think about global citizenship, and so on. It goes on and on. So leadership basically has come in all sorts of guises, through Inspire Week, through middle school leadership, Week Without Walls intro weeks, through the Changemaker Council, which is the vice presidents of the high school student organizations, and obviously, as I've mentioned before, the specific openings and to anybody that would like to access leadership training here. So yeah, putting a lot of thoughts and intentions about how we grow that. Partnership development, for me, probably, it falls into two categories, really. Sometimes very kind of one-off. On the 11th of Feb, Rachel Lynn is going to come in and do a Talk Tuesday. She's written a book. It's part of the Dubai Book Festival coming up. It's all about her transitions in life to live in different locations of the world. Totally relevant to probably all of us in this room. And she talks very openly about the challenges that brought to her on a personal level. Moving to Dubai was a huge step for her. And her book explains what that meant to her and how she managed to develop strategies and resilience to overcome that. So not only is she doing a Talk Tuesday in a couple of weeks, but we're also looking at how she might work with some grade 12 groups later on in the year as they begin to transition into a huge step of change in their life. So we're just exploring with the counselors at the moment how that might look. We might not see connections, but we might. So they're the types of opportunities that we're trying to explore through developing connections and partners with kind of outside the school. Gisu Bayez is going to be our MUN keynote speaker at the end of February. He's also going to be running a Falcon Business Network event in the evening on the Wednesday the 26th, which helps NGOs, small businesses, to think about their sustainability arm and how they might communicate that to influential people who might might be sponsors, might be backers for their organization, and how they share those messages in an impactful and effective way. And looking at how that all connects with the Sustainable Development Goals and using that as a framework for business and not just schools. The sphere over here, Safe Centre for Autism, is just down the road. I don't know if any of you know it, towards kind of Emirates Mall. Hopefully going to start exploring how we have some of our students go there, maybe do some reading, but also they're super excited about bringing some of their older students here. So beginning to have very early conversations about how might some of their 17, 18, 19-year-olds maybe connect into RightBite and maybe do some helping of giving change when we're buying things at RightBite. That would be a great development of their life skills. So we're just exploring some of those kind of thinking. So very early stages with them. Senses, we're looking good in. Again, there's another trip on Saturday. Groups of students going down. They have a lot of activities going on at the weekend. So again, it opens up different opportunity for our students to go and volunteer and work with groups who are physically and mentally challenged in some way. And again, exposure, understanding context, and having fun and learning and partnering. This to me is a really exciting one, and I'm hoping that it continues to move forward. Working with the Cultural Centre, one of the things that they've been tasked to do is to grow global citizenship understanding throughout UAE youth. So they are tasked with that. At the moment, it's right at the very beginning of their journey. And I'm hoping that whilst they've developed a program that they would like to deliver, we actually think that it could be modified further, but they're very open to having our students be part of kind of a trial. So they would train some of our students, and then they would come back here and undertake that training with other students at ASD, give them feedback about what the program was like, could it be improved, what they would like to put into it, and then once they've refined that, to be ASD students to be part of something in terms of rolling that out to other students and in schools around the UAE. So that would be pretty awesome if we could be really connected with that. It's slow but sure. I'm connecting with them again at the Middle East Youth Expo next week. So hopefully something eventually comes from that, but we'll see. In Dubai, sometimes you think it's going to go one direction and you think it's all happening, and then no, it's not. But that's life. That's life with developing partnerships, but that's where we're up to. Okay, that is the end. Any questions?
I just had a quick question about the campus rec leadership thing for elementary school. So that's an after-school activity, and for which grade?
It is. That's for grade 3, 4, and 5. And it happens on Sunday. Yeah, starting on the 9th.
What is Compassion Summit in Bahrain?
The Compassion Summit it's an external organisation, but very much connected with global citizenship thinking and the empathy arm of what it is to be a global citizen. So it allows students, I'm not directly connected with that, but it's a great opportunity for students to have their voice heard. So they look at different issues where they consider that a more peaceful, compassionate way of thinking would be a useful way for different community groups to get together. But yeah, Jasmine Braun is the person to connect with if you want to know more about like the logistics of it. But yeah, it's a great opportunity. They all connect, all these types of experiences, whether it's GIN, whether it's Compassion Summit, they all connect together basically to help to generate that mindset of being a global citizen, for sure.
Remind me again, what was the course you did in the beginning of September for middle school that my son was in? Was that GIN?
Oh, I hit GIN group, I hit the student council group, I had a group that we'd happened to work with at the end of last year in May. I had basically any students in middle school that were in leadership roles or groups, we did some training with them then. Yeah, for sure. So I'm trying to hit as many different groups as we possibly can.
How do they know about the opportunity?
Okay, so the pursuits, the middle school, that's been a pursuit. So all the pursuit offerings, Jumana in the admin office, she puts them all out so the students have a description of what it's about and the students sign up. And so there's 6-week blocks of work that they can do the 6 weeks. If it's the same thing offered again, like connected soccer, we're on the second round because a lot of kids said, can we carry this on next time? So we did another round. Not sure if we'll do a third round or not, but next time for sure, I'll put a leadership session in. So the students just get, it's part and parcel of, yeah, this is your pursuit, it's a change over time, this is what's going to be offered next time round.
I guess it's just not always easy to get into the pursuit of joy.
Oh, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Right.
basically it goes live, and then the kids are all signing up, and literally if they don't get at 7 o'clock, it goes live. If they're not on it, 7:05, things can be completely. Yeah, so that's the challenge.
And certain pursuits are mandatory, like if they do.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a dance.
okay.
If they're in the dance team, they have to.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Well, do you know what? Maybe, to be honest, the only reason I'm doing an elementary school series as part of the recreation program is because a parent came to me and said, we'd love some could you use the rec program? And to be honest, I don't know why. I'm normally pretty good at trying to explore ways to move forward, but I hadn't even thought about using the rec program. So I said, yeah, absolutely. So I'm wondering whether in the next round of rec activities, we offer something to middle school if we think there's a demand there. But I'm happy to explore any avenues where we hit more students.
As it relates to the high school students, have you been in each of their advisories to explain the program to them? Like, how are they getting the information as well? Because I know that for them, they have their club fair at the beginning of the year where all these clubs and organizations are there. But because obviously it's very valuable, and as the students are getting from 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, what you're offering is very valuable. And the leadership aspect, I mean, as a parent of a 16-year-old 11th grader, I was not aware that it was even part of the Inspire program. So I think that
It was all advertised there. I plug it in terms of advertising or promoting. I plug into what exists in school. So if it's a rec program, it goes through the rec department.
Right.
If it's Inspire, it goes through the Inspire. So I haven't done that independently. That's all part of trying to connect and work in processes that already exist at ASD.
So I think with the leadership aspect for a high school student and the fact that you offer a one-week program during Inspire is very valuable for the student and for parents to know that, because obviously there are many kids who are not doing trips anymore. And
That's exactly why
they're
we put
looking
it
for
on.
valuable, and also as kids are starting, as 10th and 11th graders starting to think about their high school resume for college, you know, our kids don't have a lot of opportunities for leadership instruction.
That's exactly why
So,
I put it in the Inspire.
Yeah, so I think it's very valuable, and I don't know how else we can get that information out there, but it is really, really important.
It is. Yeah, I mean, I've developed a Changemaker Council this year, which hopefully gives the vice presidents of high school student organizations a specific role. I look at that, I'm reviewing that at the moment. I would say it hasn't been as effective as I expected it to be. I think for various reasons, and we're going to start reviewing that with the students. They're like the high school organizations, the win structure maybe isn't as easy to work with as the middle school pursuits. And so the time that students are available, the pressures that they have with work, they all seem to impact. And I actually think that the high school organizations, often their exec team, who I've targeted initially, really, they're often grade 11 and 12. By the time you reach this point in the year with a grade 12, they're so focused on everything else. And so what we're doing at the moment with Sean Sawyer and with Lawrence and with Kevin is to start to explore, well, is there a way that every exec should have maybe a grade 10 student on it, so that we're looking at longevity and growth? Again, maybe a perception of a grade 12 that's already on an exec team is that I'm already a leader. So that's actually helped me to put into a better context. Maybe the focus on middle school and elementary is even more important in terms of this leadership in a growth capacity.
Well, it's also, you know,
Building.
opportunities. So
Yeah.
those middle schoolers that have partaken in it,
Yeah.
once they get to high school, they know what it is. And here
Yeah.
it's a brand new thing. They've already their
Yeah,
mindset's
yeah,
already,
absolutely.
Like, who are you coming in?
Yeah.
So I think there's an opportunity. It's just going to take time, right?
I think so.
Definitely growing and more people are becoming aware of it.
Sure.
It's wonderful work.
No, I'm loving being here, and let's hope I'll carry it on. We'll see.
This was great.
Good. Pleasure.